Welcome back, guys, and today we are here with my round 6, yes, you heard that right, of the Undercity Coliseum tournament. I did talk about it in a previous video, but for those of you who missed it, unfortunately, round 5 I will not be uploading. I messed up the recording pretty badly. I forgot to hit record on one of the games, and then I lost 2-0 handily to Mono Blue. So I didn't really want to play like half a video where I get crushed in about 4 minutes, and then go, oh yeah, by the way, I lost game 2. See you guys tomorrow. So I decided I'd just skip the entire round. But yeah, I lost pretty handily to Mono Blue. I kind of just game 1 they did the whole Curious Obsession thing and all my removal sorcery speed, so I just died. And then game 2 I killed all their stuff, but then they had one more threat than I had answer, and they killed me with a big Tempest Gin. So like I killed like 4 creatures in a row, and then they played the 5th, and then yeah, they just killed me from there really. But it was a I think Mono Blue is a tough matchup, so I didn't really go into it with much confidence. But I did lose 2-0, meaning going into this round I am 3-2. So things need to look up here. So luckily though we got a cool round here. This was a really fun round to play, and some good games as well. And we're playing versus a veteran of NGA as well. This is the Devil Wuster. He's also from he's been around on NGA longer than I have by a significant amount. So it was nice to get matched up with someone you know, so we had a bit of banter and all that. He's got a YouTube channel himself, so type in the Devil Worcester and he'll probably come up on YouTube and you can check out his stuff if you want to see his side or check out some of his other videos. But yeah, he is playing quite an interesting deck. He's playing it's kind of like a mono blue mid range and not mono blue, mono white mid range deck. I kind of glanced at the list and assumed he was playing like mono white aggro. But looking at he's running a lot of the big angels. He's running, some of the. He's not running the fastest build possible, so you kind of don't sideboard versus the all aggro deck. But yeah, so he's running kind of a mono white mid rangey kind of build, and it was really interesting build to play, and it led to a really interesting series of games. So let's get this started. Yeah, so I'm running my traditional is it build here, so not really much to say. This hand is obviously a keep, 2 lands, bunch of spells, Crackling Drake, cheap removal, can't really say no to it. When I get the choice to take, of course I keep it. My opponent is on the play, which is never a good thing, because even though I said they were mid-range rather than aggro, being on the play is huge, because it allows them to like I have to lead Mountain here over playing the Opt, because if he goes to Johnny's Primate, it just wins the game. Although I did draw the Lava Coil, but I'd rather save that for one of his bigger angels. So I'm not going to shock this thing, like I said, because I need to keep this front of Johnny's Primate if that shows up. He does not play it, he plays nothing, so I decided to shock. He does run 4 Moment of Triumph in the deck, which is their +2/+2 spell. So that could have blown back on me, but if he wants to blow that to save his Healer's Hawk, I'm perfectly fine. This turn I decided to keep up Opt and Shock at the same time. So again, I'm not tapping out for anything particularly here. Opponent plays a Resplendent Angel, and I do mess up here. This is actually a pretty bad misplay. I play the Opt instead of the Radical Idea. I just kind of automatically assumed, obviously I'm not going to shock anything here. So I kind of played the wrong spell, and it does come back to bite me. Because, for example, here, now that I have to Lava Coil the Resplendent Angel, I can't Opt because I've already cast it and I've got the Radical Idea stuck in my hand. So I'm a card down at this point, but in the grand scheme of things, it was a pretty minor misplay. It's not like the end of the world kind of stuff. My opponent then plays a Shalai, which is interesting. Obviously, I would prefer a second Lava Coil at this point, but not really much I can do. I'll just tap off for a Crackling Drake. And we draw Discovery Dispersal. This is obviously game 1, so I still have all 4 Phoenix in my deck somewhere, so in theory I could try and race them if I got the right draw, but it does not look like that's going to be the draw we're going to be getting today. My opponent obviously running white, he runs Conclave Tribunal, and he runs Luminous Bonds as well. They're kind of his removal suite. So I can't really do much there. He plays a Benlish Marshal, which allows them to attack straight past my Crackling Drake. Not the end of the world, my Crackling Drake did survive, which is nice. Allows me to put on a lot of pressure here. Don't really want any of these spells. Kind of done enough wheeling at the minute, so I'm happy to win them both. Draw into a Lava Coil, and then I I do think about this bit, but I do forget about the Shalai ability. I was planning on lava coiling the Benelish Marshal, but then I quickly realised that because of Shalai, I have to double burn spell the Shalai. Kind of unfortunate, but not the end of the world because it does pump up my Drake as well. Plus, I mean, Shalai did need to die, so fair enough. And that allows me to smack my opponent for 7. So if he doesn't have an answer for this Crackling Drake, I could just take over the game here. And we see what he has. Does he have the answer? He does. It's to be expected. I mean, like I said, he is running removal. So now at this point, we've got a bunch of draw spells in our hand, and our opponent has a 3/3 on the board. So we're just gonna try and dig for some removal or some more finishers. Don't need shock at this point. And draw into Electromancer, which is actually not a bad draw because that allows us to obviously play both Radicalized Ds this turn now. And Entrancing Melody is a really good one here. We can obviously now steal his Benelish Marshal, or maybe even a Lyra if he tapped out for a Lyra that is in his deck. So we can steal a big creature from him, which is nice. So at this point I'm feeling pretty confident. He has more cards in hand, but I have Entrancing Melody, which is going to be at least a 2/4/1 here. And sure enough, he plays up a Lenin Wall Leader. So that's obviously going to be stealing that. I can't let that thing survive. Even get one attack in. My life total is getting a little bit low, so I'm very happy to steal that and then just keep up the Radical Idea. So now I'm in a pretty good situation. Bar Lyra, I think I'm pretty favoured at this point. Even if he has another removal spell, he is 2/1ing himself. So I'm feeling pretty confident. And our opponent then taps out for a Resplending Angel, and that's good, but it's not the end of the world. If he hits 6 mana, you can start pumping out angels, but this Lenin War Leader is now going to get an attack in to obviously give me some life and try and force a trade here anyway. There's no point sitting back with it because yeah, it holds his 3/3s back, but that Resplendent Angel needs. I need to end this game before my opponent hits 6 mana basically, or I need to kill that Resplendent Angel, one of the two. And we Torment Voice. I'm not going to try and bring back the Arclight Phoenix for free until I guarantee that I'm going to be drawn into another spell here, but because we have the Radical Ideas, there's no rush. So we do get to bring it back for free. We aren't really drawing into much. We kind of span our wheels there into a bunch of land. But there is a Niv Mizzet, which is obviously a fantastic draw at this point. Niv Mizzet, Niv Mizzet obviously is very powerful. Our opponent's already used one Conclave Tribunal, so Niv Mizzet has a very good possibility of changing over the game as long as I draw into some action. And obviously our opponent's just going to get the free. He's going to eat the tokens for free, but he is going to have to take the 4 from the War Leader. And them 3/3s can't really attack into an Arclight Phoenix. So I think at this point in the game, I'm in a pretty solid situation with the Niv in my hand because I get to play it next turn, and then any spell I draw just allows me to kind of just combo off. And then if my opponent hits 6 mana, obviously that's pretty bad because I'll go down to 5 life and they'll have a 4/4, but hopefully I can stabilize from there. My opponent goes for the all-out attack, and I'm perfectly happy to trade off an Electromancer plus a Arclight Phoenix for his board here. So depending how he blocks, I mean, like I said, he is running 4 Moment of Triumph, so it's just something to keep in mind. But I need to get them out of his hand eventually. So and if he drew a land, I would have played the land and activated Resplendent Angel. So I know he didn't draw a land. Sure enough, it's Moment of Triumph. That does allow him to eat both my Electromancers, but I do get the trade on the Benelish Marshal, which is nice. And then our opponent, does he have a follow-up? That's the big thing. If our opponent has a follow-up here, the game is still on. If he doesn't, then we'll probably just take over. He does actually play History. We draw land, which is kind of unfortunate. We just need any spell at this point, and Nicol Bolas will probably just win us the game. I'm still going to attack here. Like I said, I'm gaining 2 life just with the attack. Our opponent is on a low life total, so they do need to respect that. So he decides to chump the Leonin War Leader, and then goes down to 8 life. So if we can draw anything really, we're in a pretty good situation. Obviously our opponent is also in a pretty good situation if they hit land, so I guess we can't really argue too much here. And then they draw another Benelish Marshal, which doesn't allow them to attack this turn, but it is getting a bit worrisome here. I do need to find some action. So we draw a spell. Unfortunately, it's a land. So trying to think if there's anything to ping here. Oh, but I've got nothing in my graveyard, so I just have to go for the face. Now I decide whether it's worth to attack and bluff that I have a spell to kill my opponent, or whether it's worth, like with Niv Mizzet anyway. I'm going to be attacking with Leonin. I decided that for a minute. I decided to keep the Niv back because if my opponent just takes it, they can smack me really hard in the crackback with that Resplendent Angel. So I think, I mean, maybe it's right to try and bluff there and attack with Niv Mizzet, but ultimately I decided it wasn't worth it, and I'm not entirely sure if that's right or not. I don't know. Looking back at the game, I'm thinking, I think it probably is right to attack. Because if my opponent hits a 6 land, they're going to attack anyway. If they don't hit a 6 land, then they're probably not going to attack just to try and survive. So I think it was probably right to attack with the Mizzet. I don't think it's a huge misplay. I think it's more of a decision. And then my opponent draws into a Shalai. So they still haven't hit the 6th mana, but Shalai is a good one because now I have to kill that Shalai before I can start pinging anything. And we draw a land to Electromancer, which is not the best draw we ever had. So things are kind of looking a bit dicey at this point. We've kind of whiffed the last 3 draw steps with this Niv Mizzet on board, which isn't particularly great. Our opponent, if he hits land, he gets to activate Resplendent. If he hits anything else, it's a threat. And unfortunately there he hits a 6th land, which allows him to do the big attack. We are just going to block Shalai and then kill this Benelish Marshal. And then, unfortunately, our opponent is going to make the 4/4 Angel. Once we decide these blocks are correct. So, like I said, we're not out this game yet. If we hit a spell, if we hit like Charter Course, hell, even Tormenting Voice at this point, would be really good spells to hit. We can start pinging his Shalai down. Obviously, removal spells. We have Beacon Bolt in the deck. That would probably be the best card we could draw. And we have other outs at this point, but we are down to 2 life here, so we are dead on board unless we find any threat. And it's a land. So really unfortunate there. We resolved a Niv Mizzet and then drew Electromancer, land for our draw steps, which wasn't how we drew it up, let's put it that way. So unfortunately, I am dead on board here, and I will quickly concede, I think. I might just... I think I'll let him play it out, and then, because I'm bluffing that maybe he's scared to attack because I've got 2 cards in hand, but obviously if you're my opponent, you're going to attack here, so not really much to be gained. Talking about the sideboarding here, is that for game 2, I feel like my deck gets a lot better. I bring in the 4th Lava Coil. I just bring in a bunch of removal. I bring in the 2nd Niv Mizzet, and I bring in took out the Phoenixes and bring in Murmuring Mystics. Kind of just went for the full control package, but took out some of my bad removal like the Shocks and just brought in a lot more of my less conditional removal. So that was kind of how I played this one out, and it was a close game there. Maybe I could have got there. You never know. If I had done that radical idea correctly, maybe I could have got something going. But I think it was just a poor luck of the draw there. I didn't manage to hit a spell after resolving a Niv Mizzet. Rarely do you lose if a Niv Mizzet gets to you get to untap with a Niv Mizzet. But like I said, that's how I sideboarded, and I will see you in game 2. And we're back, and this time obviously I'm on the play. I keep a hand, 2 lands, with a Beacon Bolt and just a bunch of draw spells. It's kind of the hand that you're not excited about, but you do have to keep. The chances of me hitting more lands off either Discovery or Charter Course here are astronomical, so I'm not too worried about that. I just kind of need more threats at this point, either a Murmuring Mystic, Crackling Drake, or one of my Niv Mizzets, obviously. My opponent does mulligan to 6, not complaining too badly about this. I do the whole full control thing to try and pretend to have Shock up. I like to do this against opponents, just because, you know, it makes them respect. They might not play their 1-drop. And 2 mana, I'm going to play my Dispersal. Just trying to dig into more action at this point. And hit a Crackling Drake. Radical Idea is obviously a fantastic one to put in the graveyard. So, I draw my Crackling Drake. I've got 3 lands. Obviously, I do need to hit a 4th land drop, but with Opt and Charter Course, I think that's pretty likely. Our opponent then... I can't remember what they do this time. They're playing a Johnny's Primate, something I do have to kill because he runs so much life gain. So I'd like to have drawn... I would like to have played an Opt and a Charter Course or something this turn, but like I said, you have to kill a Johnny's Primate. You can't let it live. Because like if he just goes like... and like holds up Moment of Craven, that's suddenly +3/+3, plays like 2 lifelink creatures, I'm in really big trouble. So he plays the Benlish Marsh on turn 3, which is something I'm not too worried about surviving a turn, so because we didn't hit a land drop though, so we don't get the choice to play Crackling Drake, but if it hit my land drop I would have just played Crackling Drake there. And Entrancing Melody is a really nice one, but we do need to hit land, so I was gutted to bottom that one. Unfortunately we don't hit our 4th land. So the hand went from solid to pretty unfortunate at this point, but I mean, it's not the end of the world. We still have 2 draw spells and an Electromancer in hand. Our opponent then plays a second Benlish Marshal. I think at this point I decide to Charter Course plus Goblin Electromancer. And because I drew that dive down, I'm feeling pretty good. That's a good dive down because my opponent's removal, obviously being mono white, is pretty clunky, and dive down will save a Drake. So at this point, with double Drake in hand, I'm kind of just trying to get to my Drakes, play both Drakes, and just kill my opponent in the air with the dive down as protection. I think this is kind of the hand where you can't afford to go aggro because I have the protection, I have double Drake, which is a huge clock by itself. I'm not too worried about taking 3 here. This Benlish Marshal at the minute is just a 3/3 for 3, so it's not exactly the most powerful card in the world. I'm also kind of reluctant to use a Beacon Bolt on a Benlish Marshal because I need that Beacon Bolt for his Resplendent Angels, his Leonin War Leaders, and his Lyras. That's what I need that Beacon Bolt for. So he does have the History follow-up, which is pretty powerful, obviously, but Crackling Drake in theory walls my opponent unless he has another Lord or a Moment of Triumph. So it's up to my opponent to either bluff here the attack or actually have the threat. So we'll see what our opponent does. And we have the Crackling Drake, which is already a 7 power creature, so that's a 3-turn clock by itself. If I play the second Drake next turn, my opponent is pretty much dead in 2 turns, which is the power of Crackling Drake. Lyra would be the best card my opponent could play here, I think. And this is looking like a removal spell, and sure enough, Conclave Tribunal. So gonna let it resolve, so he can target first. And sure enough, as soon as he does that, I now have the dive down. My opponent needs exactly Moment of Triumph to be able to attack. Actually, Moment of Triumph doesn't even do it, so my opponent just can't attack this turn, which is really big. Allows me to get ahead in the race. Forgot about the 3 toughness boost from dive down. But yeah, so I mean, I'm absolutely going to attack here. My opponent's on 20 life, but it's not going to stay 20 life for much longer with double Drake in hand. Because like they need another Conclave Tribunal or a Luminous Bonds just to kill one of my Drake. But I'm thinking with my current hand, it wouldn't be unlikely that I could because this Drake's going to be 9 power now once I kill this Benlish Marshal. And sure enough, he does have the Moment of Triumph, so I do get it out of his hand at least. It does gain him 2 life, which is actually relevant on this board. But with my opponent on 13 life, I don't think, even if they do answer the second Drake or play like a blocker that isn't Lyra. Actually, I've got the Beacon Ball, so Lyra's not even a threat at this point. But with my current hand, anyway, what I'm trying to say is I think I could probably get this Crackling Drake up to 13 power with the Opt and Shivan Fire Odie in my hand and the Radical Ideas in my graveyard. So my opponent plays the Johnny's Primate. That's what they drew. I don't need to block here now that they're tapped out. So I'll go down to 2 life. Pretty close game, but ultimately I was in control. I thought that game had the double Drake, and I can just attack for 18 in the air. Don't even need to play any of my spells to boost that higher. So yeah, as you can see, post board my deck does get a lot better. I have a lot more removal to play with. Beacon Bolt is so good in this matchup. So we will now be playing for all the proverbial money in game 3. I'll see you in a sec. And we're back, and as you can see here, my opponent does get to be on the play. To be expected, obviously, after game 1 they chose to be on the play. We have pretty solid hand. We have a lot of removal, which is obviously nice. Beacon Bolt is probably one of my better cards in the matchup. Lava Call also one of the better cards, and Crackling Drake. So Ideally, this is probably one of the best hands I could have asked for, so I really can't complain. My opponent doesn't have a 2-drop, so I get to chart a course in peace. And that's a lot of land. So, pretty happy to dig through that pocket a little bit anyway. So we have 6 land in our hand, so pretty much every time we get to chart a course or something, we'll be bottoming or binning lands at any occasion here. Resplendent Angel, that is going to eat this Lava Coil. Has to be Lava Coil because we don't actually have that many instants in our graveyard at the minute. We only have 2. So these beacon bolts aren't actually that powerful yet. We did need to find like another Opt or Shock or something just to fill our graveyard a little bit. Opponent plays nothing on turn 4 as well, so they've either got a lot of lands in hand or they've got a bunch of 5-drops like Lyra and stuff like that. So I'm fully expecting the turn 5 Lyra here, judging by the fact, because they wouldn't have kept a hand that was just turn 3 Resplendent Angel. So I'm fully expecting the Lyra. Sure enough, my opponent plays a Lyra, and that is actually kind of a problem because these beacon bolts don't really do much. It's 2 power then 3 power, and so I can't actually kill this Lyra this turn. So I kind of just have to play the Electromancer at top deck and pass it back to my opponent. So they're going to gain 5 and hit me for 5 here. And if they start having stuff like Moment of Triumph, which is definitely a card they could have, judging by their hand, things get ugly. Things get ugly very quickly. Because these beacon bolts just aren't big enough. So I kind of have to hope my opponent taps out for something I don't care about here. But I mean, I do have to kill Lyra. Lyra is a big threat. Best draw on my deck here is Entrancing Melody, because I can actually cast it next turn, targeting Lyra. So, I mean, obviously you can't just call your best. I did bring in the second one, so I do have 2 in my deck. Opponent is thinking about what to play here, and they decide to go for Benlish Marshal, to be expected. But it does bump his Lyra up even bigger now, so I'm not in a particularly good situation. Drew a lot of lands, got double Beacon Bolt that don't really do much on this board. And my opponent even follows that up with a... oh, what is it again? Another card. A Conclave Tribunal, killing my Drake. So, not in a particularly good situation at this point. Need to draw into a spell, and, well, Dive Down was the worst spell I could have drawn, but it is still a spell. So I have to take a pretty unorthodox line here. I decide to, I have to dive down my own creature for no value, and then double Beacon Bolt his Lyra. Just to get enough spells to kill his Lyra at this point, which is not exactly where you want to be, let's put it like that, because now we hit him for 3, and then we hit him for 4. Once we get around to it. At least we have plenty of stuff to discard for the, we have plenty of other stuff to discard for these Beacon Bolts in our graveyard with all this land in hand. So, at least we got to, bright side we got to deal with his Lyra, downside we had to cast 3 spells to do it. Dive down plus double Beacon Bolt, but I mean we still got obviously the jump start side of Beacon Bolt. I'm looking at my graveyard here to try and figure out how big these Beacon Bolts are, and sure enough, we draw another land, but we do get to kill his Benlish Marshal. He doesn't have a Moment of Triumph in hand. So I decided that's probably going to be the last land I play out for the time being. Want to keep 1 in hand for this Beacon Bolt or any Tormenting Voices I draw. So let's see what our opponent does on 7 mana now. They are also flooding out pretty badly, as you can tell. If a mono white deck is hitting land drop for 7 turns in a row, you know things aren't pretty ideal. But they use the second Tribunal on my on my Electromancer here, and now we're in a really weird situation where it's a staring contest. We both don't really have any answers. We both have a bunch of removal, presumably. He's already played. I've already played double Beacon Bolt. He's already played double Conclave Tribunal. So we're both just digging for stuff to do. Don't really want an Electromancer, even though it is a bear. So at this point, we're just having a staring contest. I have a bunch of removal in hand. My opponent has a bunch of removal. My opponent has already used a bunch of removal and is flooding out pretty badly. So yeah, we're just passing the turn back to each other at this point. Both trying to dig into a great card to draw. Obviously, my opponent has many good cards they could draw. I also have many good cards I could draw. And Johnny Primate, that's just going to eat this Shivan Fire. Even if he has the Moment of Triumph, I mean, I have to bait it out of his hand eventually. So I do just kick the Shivan Fire just in case. I don't know. There's really no point because the only thing you could have to save it there is a Moment of Triumph, which just get it out of range anyway. We draw Crackling Drake, one of our best draws in the deck there. Crackling Drake into more land, but I mean, my Kingdom for a dive down at this point, but of course we don't have one. So we just pass it back to our opponent. Does he have another answer? Does he have a threat? And the answer is 10 lands, by the way. I feel really bad for my opponent this game. They flooded really hard at the very start anyway. And Luminous Bonds. So, yep, my board has just been entirely enchantmented. We draw another Ectomancer, making me glad I bottomed that last one. And pass it back. So, really weird game. We're both trying to be a lot more aggressive than is on show here. And opponent, I mean, they obviously we have to play this out, but it's just such a weird game. I don't think any of us were comfortable with this at this point. We don't really know what we're meant to be doing. Just kind of awkwardly digging for answers, and as I'm a blue deck, I do have the advantage there with all the card draw. Give them the nice because there's the third tribunal. So my opponent clearly kept a very removal heavy hand, as did I. So when both sides tend to do that, you get this. You get games like this where we're just going back and forth, passing it back and forth. 11 lands. That's really bad. But we don't have Mizzet, so all is well. My opponent's already used 3 tribunals, so I don't really have to worry about the 4th one too highly. And even if they... And Luminous Bonds is their other removal spell, but that keeps Niv Mizzet on board, which allows it to still like combo off with all its instants and sorceries. So unless my opponent has specifically 4th tribunal, I feel pretty solid here. And it's Cleansing Nova. They actually brought that in out of the sideboard, something I didn't expect, but I guess goodbye Niv at this point. So yeah, mono white control versus Izzet control has led to quite an unusual board state here, but my opponent actually has a really good turn here. They get to go, obviously, the Cleansing Nova to wipe my board, but then they also followed up with Immortal Sun, which is so good on this board state. They're drawing an extra card a turn now, so I do need to rip something good, and off the top of my deck, second Niv Mizzet. Very, very good here. Opponent's empty-handed. Like I said, they have already used 3 of their 4 good removal spells to deal with Niv. It's really only this Luminous Bonds that does the job at this point, that they can realistically draw. They draw a land for one of them, taking them up to 12 lands. And their last card is a Leonin War Leader. Not going to do anything because I've got Entrancing Melody in hand. So yeah, I think I'm like a good 80% to win this game now. Because I just get to go off here. Got 3 removal spells in hand. Murmuring Mystic hits the field as well. So yeah, I think this game is... My opponent needs like a second Cleansing Nova at this point. But I think I'm probably a bit greedy to play this Murmuring Mystic. There's probably an argument for holding it in hand in case my opponent does have more like another board sweeper or something. But I just kind of wanted to play it. I don't draw Murmuring Mystic enough to actually get to play it. So 13 lands, and I think judging by that, my opponent's last card is either Moment of Triumph or another land. So this game was, of all the games of Magic, this was definitely one of them. I think I play around Settle the Wreckage here. No need not to, because if this attack works, then I can just kill my opponent with the Lava Coil plus Beacon Bolt pings. And sure enough, my opponent does actually die here, and we take it down. Really weird, really fun series of games, but that game 3 was definitely bizarre. We did have a good talk about it afterwards, and it was good fun. Yeah, so that takes us up to 4-2 going into round 7. There's going to be 9 rounds of Swiss in this tournament. I'm not sure if my record's good enough for top 8. 2 losses is a lot in a 9-round tournament, but we'll see what happens. We'll just play our games out for the fun at this point. So I'd like to thank you guys for watching, and I will see you later.